to talk about how we can fight back against the influence of money in politics is Sean Eldridge. He's founder of Protect Our Democracy. It's a new political action group focusing on reforming campaign finance laws. In this case, in New York State, could be a model for other states as well. He's coming to us from New York. Sean, welcome back into the War Room.
Thank you so much for having me back.
You bet. So, Sean, I'm convinced that there is a link between money in politics and voter participation. You're also a senior advisor to Freedom to Marry. How has your experience with the campaign to legalize gay marriage nationwide informed your approach to the fight for campaign finance reform?
Well, there's certainly different issues and unique issues, but I think there are a couple of similarities. First, I think that whenever we're trying to tackle a really big issue in this country, you have to work both at the state level and at the federal level. You know, federal progress doesn't just magically happen on its own. It requires some momentum, and it requires very often that dual work of state and federal work. We're absolutely seeing that in the marriage equality work, and I think we need to start seeing that even more with the campaign finance reform work. I think it's also really important that we have sort of a single issue focus, which is why I launched Protect Our Democracy, because I think we need to make sure that there are people waking up every single morning and saying, how are we going to fix this incredible problem of money pouring into our political system? And so now we see that as our role, to wake up every morning and make sure that we're doing everything we can to make this system better.
Okay, so talk about what you guys are doing in New York, and then I want to ask you whether we can apply it to other states and maybe something on the national level. So go ahead. What are you doing?
Well, as you pointed out, our democracy is under attack by an unprecedented wave of special interest money, and that is true here in New York. And what we need to do is take the power away from the billionaire donors and put it back where it belongs, with the voter. So what we're doing here in New York is trying to really do two things. One, we want to fix what is one of the worst campaign finance systems in the country, which is what New York has. Unbelievably, New York actually has the highest contribution limit of any state that has a contribution limit.
What is it?
You can contribute more than $60,000 to a gubernatorial race, to a statewide race.
You are kidding me.
Which is, well, and if you look at that $60,000 number, compare it to the median income in New York State, which is about $55,000. So there's no way to justify that. We do not need $60,000 checks flowing into our elections.
Wow.
So what we need to do is fix New York's system, and we also need to create a model and the momentum that's needed to fix what's happening at the federal level and at the national level. So what we want to do in New York is fix what we have, fix the problem we have here, and generate the momentum that's needed. Because unfortunately, you know, we're waking up every morning and seeing another story about a new super PAC and a new billionaire getting in the game. But the progress at the federal level to tackle this issue has really stalled. We couldn't pass the Disclose Act. We're not going to change the Supreme Court overnight. So we need to do something about this issue today.
Okay, but
and I think that the opportunity is here in New York.
Okay, so give me specifically, what are you going to be doing? I get the reason why. What are you going to be asking for? Obviously, better campaign caps, the caps on the contribution levels. What else?
That's right. So we're arguing for three major reforms in New York State. One is to drop those campaign contribution limits and lower the limits. The second is to increase transparency and disclosure in the system. And the third is to introduce a system of small dollar matching funds. So actually what we have right here in New York City, where I'm sitting tonight, and what's existed since 1988, is a matching system that matches 6-to-1 small dollar contributions up to $175 in city elections. And since 1988, we've seen that system of small dollar matching funds really flourish. It's increased participation in the political system across the board. More people have donated, more people are voting, more people are running for office, and more diverse people from across all neighborhoods of New York City have gotten involved in the political system. So we have this amazing track record of a model that's actually really good of New York City's campaign finance system. And then we have sort of the other model, which is one of the worst at the state level. So what we want to do is take New York City's system and apply it statewide.
So, but what you're saying is that the city itself, the public dollar, matches the private dollar.
That's right. They are city matching funds up to that $175 limit.
And that's the hard argument, is it not? That the taxpayer is saying, well, why would I finance a system that I think is terrible to begin with?
Well, what we've estimated is that this system applied statewide would cost between $2 and $3 per New Yorker. I think if you asked the average New Yorker, do you think it's worth $2 to get your democracy back, the answer would be yes. And actually, when polled, 74% of New Yorkers, including Republicans and Democrats and independents, want to see this system take place. And thankfully, with Governor Cuomo's leadership here, we're fighting that good fight.
All right, so the big question then, Sean, is how do you apply that to super PACs and the things that are not directly going to campaigns? How do you stop the flow of unprecedented amounts of money at these super PACs?
Well, I think the fundamental problem is that we need to make sure that our elected officials, whether it's the president or a mayor or anywhere in between, we need to make sure that they are accountable to all of the voters, to all of their constituents. They can't be accountable to just Sheldon Adelson or the Koch brothers or just 2 or 3 people. And that's the problem that we're seeing now, where a huge chunk of the money that's funding the campaigns today is coming from a small group of people. And that's where the matching funds come in. If you actually run the numbers and do the math, and if you take the small dollar donors who are making those $5, $25 contribution limits, if we were to match those and duplicate those like we have here in New York City, that would become very real money. And what we would do is get our democracy back. It would mean that if you're running for office in New York State, or hopefully if we can apply this elsewhere, it would mean you worry about what everyone thinks, you worry about the well-being of all constituents, not just about what the Koch brothers or Adelson are asking you to do.
But the issue about super PACs and everything, I get what you're saying on the state level, but it doesn't address the key issue that was created, of course, by Citizens United and these super PACs, this unlimited. Do you not think that in order to address that separate question, you've got to have a constitutional amendment? And it's got to be a real quick answer.
I think we need the Disclose Act. I think a constitutional amendment would be great, but I think we can make real progress in the next year, right here in New York State, and it's part of the bigger puzzle. We need all of the above to fix this really broken system.
All right. Well, I appreciate that positivity and that you are somebody who's taking action to do something about this. That's Sean Eldridge, co-founder of Protect Our Democracy.